please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Let's get a conversation going with Vaibhav Sanghavi, co-CEO of Avendus Capital Alternate Strategies. Vaibhav, good to have you on the show. So we've been in an interesting patch, an uptrend pretty much that's taken us close to the doorsteps of 10,600. Do you think the worst of the negativities is priced in? Or now with crude prices being where they are, there's a fresh risk to this small up move?
Sure. So, Surabhi, I think, we've rallied smartly from the lows of about 20,000 to now 10,600 odd levels. In anticipation, partly due to, that the quarterly numbers are, likely to be good. And as usual, you will see that the first half of the quarterly numbers would be better than your second half, which actually will aid the sentiment to an extent. However, as you rightly mentioned, all these factors, including your 10-year bond yield plus your crude, as well as your US 10-year, which is now close to about 2.86 again, those are the factors which we will see it pretty closely. So, just to sum up, I think the short term looks pretty okay in terms of the sentiment on the quarterlies, but medium term is something where we think the volatility will remain intact over a period of time.
Okay, Vaibhav, hi, good afternoon. I wanted your thoughts on how to approach the IT space now, because large cap IT names like Infosys, etc., have talked about some margin pain, as they make that transition to more digital services. But mid cap IT has been doing really well, whether it's Mastech, Mindtree, etc. How do you approach this pocket now?
No, I think, we have been, speaking on the channel itself that, we have been very, very bullish on the IT space on an overall basis. Now, a couple of reasons. One, that we clearly believe that the business has bottomed out in terms of the growth, looking at the higher tech spending. At the same time, currency depreciating, which we have been witnessing over the last, a week or two. We clearly believe that there are some amount of tailwinds on the margin. Now, having said that, if the companies, if they have guided towards the lower end of the margin, we think that that will pretty much get compensated, due to the depreciating currency. So I see, one, that the revenue estimates might move higher as we progress during the year. At the same time, because of these currency effects, we think that the margin would be pretty stable. So we will see, good opportunity in the IT space, both large cap and mid caps.
Well, one space in the market that everybody's been trying to get onto is obviously consumption, even at elevated valuation levels. How do you look at the theme right now? Which way are you cutting it? Which parts of it are you willing to play even at these prices?
No, we have been fairly bullish on both consumers across staples and discretionary. However, staples on a optically looks pretty expensive, and we would be looking at to add in that space at some price correction if it happens. Whereas in consumer discretionary, I think we continue to be bullish on autos and paints as well to an extent. So on overall consumer space, we think that's a quite stable basket. In the light that there may be some amount of global variables affecting different sectors, but this is insulated from those kind of volatility, and we'll continue to have a bullish view on this and a constructive view on this.
Okay, well, bullish view on that some of those consumption stories. But what about metals? Because that space was very active last year. Once again, it's come back on the buyer's radar. Is it time to make fresh investments here?
Yeah, metals, lot is going out, right? A lot is happening out there, on the global scheme of things. One, right from trade sanctions to what's happening to Rusal, and seeing the LME prices, right, which are extremely buoyant. Now, huge amount of sentiment is affected, on the positive side by these developments. Having said that, one has to understand that this is a cyclical industry, and what is the valuation which you will give for a longer framework of mind is something one needs to keep into account. Short term, however, as you rightly mentioned, I think we are in positive sentiment territory, which you are continuing to see in the stock price movement as well.
Okay. Interesting news. That's the global parent announcing a big buyback, €6 billion. That's Unilever PLC for you. Of course, not much for the shareholders here just yet. Anyhow, Vaibhav, to get back to the conversation here on earnings itself, do you expect any pocket in Q4 to spring a positive surprise? Because we've gone into the season with fairly elevated expectations anyway.
So I think one space where you see very buoyant numbers is some out of retail private banks where and select NBFCs where you'll probably see a very buoyant loan growth numbers. Again, those who are capable of lending actually. So I think that is a space you will see some amount of positive surprise. Apart from that, IT, I think, continue to see, apart from the guidance, I think the quarterly numbers should be pretty okay, as well as your consumer space, including your staples. So I think that is a pocket you will see strong numbers, and of course metals and mining, where in the last quarter you saw huge steel spreads, wherein again that is a space you will see some bond numbers as well.
Okay. Vaibhav, any thoughts on the news flow that's just coming in? By the way, let me just read it out. Unilever has announced a share buyback program of up to 6 billion euros starting the month of May. HUL actually, I mean, there's actually a sudden uptick that we're seeing on HUL right now. How would you react to this, Vaibhav, and the impact that it could perhaps have on HUL?
I think this is in relation to, if I am correct, I think this is in relation to the global scheme of things and what was happening in terms of the buybacks and corporate actions. So it's nothing to do much here on the current on the local side.
But I mean, I don't know if you can talk stock specific. Obviously, people are getting excited. No correlation with what HUL does here. But we were just talking about it earlier. I mean, this is stock at a 52-week high. So what would the view be at such prices on the likes of an HUL?
And that's what I did allude to, that the staples are looking very expensive, but that is a space you will continue to see stability, and the return ratios will be pretty excellent. So we are waiting for some correction to enter. We'll just be waiting for that correction for a longer period of time, I guess.
Okay.